Hello, I am Karen Wallstra, and I'm delighted to be sharing with you today about the use of technology within your schools, especially from an e-learning point of view and how we can engage. I have taught from grade R to grade 11, never matric, and I've worked with schools now for a range of years looking at educational change and how we can effectively use education in our classrooms. I worked for Google for a few years, and I've run a really large outreach project where teachers came and learned about teaching in terms of how we can change the way we teach. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you today. This session is an interactive session, and though it's short, there is a document attached. Please download that document and at your leisure, go through it and engage with the activities that I'm going to share with you. So what is e-learning? E-learning could take place in a face-to-face classroom where learners are on their computers, laptops, or tablets. It can also take place in any form of environment, even at home. It's digital learning. You can use a range of devices. What is blended learning? Well, blended learning is face-to-face teaching within our classrooms. It's also online learning where we're on a device. And so it's a combination of both, allowing students to do a mixture of both types of activities. Another form of learning is remote learning. Once we've used a lot in the last year with COVID. So what is remote learning? Remote learning is where the teacher is on their device in one space and a learner is on their device in another space. And the times when they're working together is remote learning. So remote learning is when you're engaging with each other at a distance on digital devices. So why should we change and integrate technologies? Well, first of all, our world is changing so very fast. There are all sorts of new technologies that have been developed in the last 15 years. So how can we actually look at changing? Think about things like Uber, or autonomous vehicle development, or drones, or YouTube. What about TikTok? It's really technology that's changing. Our world is changed, and therefore we need to change our teaching. Our learners have changed. Our learners have a digital footprint. Think about how many friends of yours have taken their pictures of their scans when they've been to doctors and put those on the web. The children have a digital footprint before they're even born. They're classified as digital natives. They demand access. They see themselves as social. They talk about themselves as being social gurus, that they're really comfortable on social media. 60% of their time is seen as being online. They see themselves as independent thinkers. A scary thing is they're saying on average they have a concentration span of about 8 seconds. They're visual learners. They're global in terms of how they engage on their devices. And they see themselves as screen agers. They're really comfortable on their screens. So therefore, our learners have changed. We need to change the way we teach. What are the benefits of digital learning for our learners? Well, learners are changing, they're using technology. Everyone, when you're using digital, is engaged. You're interacting on your devices. There's collaboration, interactivity. It's relevant to what the students are comfortable with and what they know. So there are lots of positives for this change. What are the benefits of digital learning for educators? Learners are changing. The use of technology with your learners is important because they use it. You can collaborate with your learners really easily. You can save time with auto marking. The students get instant feedback and know where they're at. You also know where your students are at. Your admin load is reduced when information is already digital. Do not fear the technology. Prepare your learners for the future. The greater fear is if no technology is being used at all. So think of the positives for you. When you're introducing technology, have school policies. Policies about cell phone and mobile device usage. Talk about the user within the policy. So how are you expecting your students to engage? Think of ideas of how the devices will be used within the school that should be included in the policy. And think about the expectations for your users. How would my learners access my remote lessons? Well, they would need data. So if you're expecting your learners to be online and engaging with you in real time, think about how they're going to get data. But they would also need devices, preferably a device with a keyboard for ease of completing tasks, especially for your older learners. Devices that connect to the internet are really useful in terms of keeping up to date, getting the marks off the devices, and engaging with your students. Smartphones could be used for video calls as well. Preferably encourage the use of earphones, even the cell phone ones work when taking calls. Think of the productivity suite you want to use. Engage and share and collaborate on these platforms. It doesn't matter which one you use. All have similar type resources, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google or iOS, but choose one. This reduces confusion for everyone on the platform. Develop their digital skills. Don't assume they know how to use them. Make sure that you teach them to use them effectively. And make a decision for your school. Use video conferencing tools so that you can easily see your learners. Choose the tool you feel comfortable with. Consider linking to the one related to your productivity suite. Schedule the meetings in the calendar. Think about video conferencing etiquette and how you would expect them to behave. Learn to use the video conferencing tools really easily and effectively. Engage with your students during these calls. Ask them to use peer assistance if needs be. What about team building and collaboration during the video calls? Think about the learner's time to talk. Don't you as the teacher just do all the talking during these calls, and allow them to share experiences and ideas. Create an ease of access. Decide on the platform. For example, if you're using Google Classroom, you can create many different classrooms which will suit you. They could relate to a subject, to a module, to a term, to a project. You as teachers and within the school can decide. And you can collaborate really well with your students, adding communication to the stream, the activities within the classwork, getting peer teachers to be involved from a people point of view, as well as all your learners, and then seeing your mark book really easily. Another wonderful platform to explore is Purple Mash. Purple Mash meets all your learning needs for primary school children. Get them to explore a range of tools within the space. There are 3 examples here where you can go in and explore. There is a login where you can use the username. Look at the letters A, B, C, all the way through to W. So AA guest is the capitals, and then the password is 1, 2, 3 and a capital A. The link is here for you to join. There are 3 examples of Automark quizzes that you could play, but you can go in and look at the coding or creating 3D models, which could be printed as paper versions or on a 3D printer. Or what about creating animations or wonderful digital artwork or creating digital music? Really, everything can be marked. Feedback can be given to students. So a great resource as a learning tool. Consider different teaching strategies when you're looking at e-learning. Are you going to be looking at one-to-one? So each child sends their own answer, or are you looking at collaborative group work tasks? And both of these work really effectively from an e-learning point of view. Think about building your learners' maths knowledge. So Reflective Learning is a South African company which has a fantastic diagnostic assessments. And then if you want to pay for, you can then go into their learning program which will fill the maths gaps. Another one is iBrain Gym, also a South African product. This builds children's visual intelligence. Go and have a look at iBrain Gym and really consider getting your students to do this 6-week course after the initial assessment. Know where your learners are at. Use auto-marking e-learning assessment tools to introduce a lesson, a mini baseline, quick think to see where they're at, a mid-lesson idea. How am I doing? What must I do? Reteach or continue teaching. An end of a lesson, quick summary or exit ticket type task. Did my learners grasp the concept? Using auto-marking is really useful. A great one to use is Google Forms. Set it as an instant feedback response. So set it to auto-mark to instantly give back the answers. I've put in an example here for you to try. Click on this link later and just see what a Google form looks like if you've never played in this space. There are lots of different types of questions, and you can make it look pretty to customize your design. The instant feedback is really important. What about Kahoot? Kahoot changed during lockdown, and now you can actually set it as an assignment which can be done at the learner's own time within a given time frame. I've put an example here for you to explore as well. Quizzes is a wonderful resource that you can also explore with thousands of pre-made assessments that you can get learners to look at and complete. You can get the data and use that to actually analyze. A really new project called Loru Games. What you do here is you put your questions in, but then when you set it, the children choose the game they're going to play. The children love this example. So go and explore Loru Games and see how you could use that in your e-learning space. But knowing the data and reading the data is really important. You can get the data. When we get the data, we can know where our students are at. So use the technology to create personalized learning for your children, using frequent quizzes and polls. Longer assessments can also be used, but read that data so you know your children, setting individual tasks. Use the tech effectively so that you can know your children. What about content and knowledge resources? Explore the range of resources. Today, we don't have time for that, but there are wonderful resources that you can explore. Create variety in your lessons and build engagement with your students. Find tools to suit your subjects. Encourage teamwork and work with colleagues to find out and learn and use more resources, particularly for your children. Encourage remote teamwork among your learners. Puzzle.org is a great one to do this. You can go and create your own crossword puzzles, memory games, and all sorts of other types of solutions. Go and explore these tools for your learners. I've put in 2 examples over here for you to go and play. Another wonderful one is PhET. PhET has a range of simulations that you can use for maths, biology, and the sciences. I've put 2 links for you to go and play in: electric circuits and forces and motion. In both of these, you can drag and drop and create your simulation. Students love this. They can take a screenshot and then put it back in the document of what they've achieved, so you can easily see what they've done. What about creating a YouTube channel for your school where you either collect videos from around the world that are appropriate to a grade or a subject and make appropriate playlists, or get your teachers to begin making their own videos? So YouTube is really useful. Remember to view any video before showing it to your students. Think about how you're going to integrate it into your lessons. What questions are you going to ask so that it becomes really relevant to what your students are doing? Decide on what devices you will need in your classroom. Are you going to use an interactive data projector, an interactive whiteboard? What about laptops? Are you actually thinking about tablets or iPads? Are your students going to be allowed to use their mobile phones? Or are you going to include 3D printers? What about Raspberry Pis for coding or other kinds of robotic tools? Are you going to store them? How are you going to charge them? So do you need spaces for this? And then what about drones? Whatever you're going to do, think about it really carefully. Decide on the infrastructure that you're going to use. Think about Are you going to use an in-house infrastructure type with in-house servers? Or are you going to use a cloud-based type infrastructure where everything is in a space where it's more cost-effective, more secure, and there are less hassles? Whatever you do, just think about the planning before you go ahead. Use a technology model that suits your school for your learners. Are you going to use a one-on-one type device? Or are you going to use a one-to-many with a shared cart type model? Or are you going to look at a loaning type device, perhaps from your school library? Whatever you choose, decide on how you're going to implement. It's really important. Make the shift and complete technology integration across your subjects, not just in IT and not just in the new coding and robotics curriculum, but across the school in every subject. Think about how to make active engagement. Think about blended learning and how to engage with your students. What about a flipped classroom scenario or problem-based learning space or inspiring creativity? Digital learning can do this for you across your school. So when you're considering, think about who you get on board. It's really important that everybody buys in, from the principal to the school leadership, and then inform your whole school body. All your educators should know what's happening. There should be serious discussions with your SGB or governing body. Remember to include the parents. And don't forget the support staff. They're really important. They're going to clean the classrooms. They're going to find the devices that haven't been packed away. They need to know how to use them and how they get stored. And don't forget your learners. Remember, you want to inform everybody about your technology integration. And then conduct an audit. Find out what you need to know. What does your school already have? What will work for your school? Complete a detailed audit of all the things, your devices, your infrastructure, your staff requirements and professional development, your existing facilities and what they have. Do you need more electrical points? Policies in place to make sure everyone is safe and considered. And then your digital security. Think about it and develop a really good plan. But the money is also important. Remember to budget. Consider the needs of the implementation, the infrastructure, the devices, the productivity suite, the training that needs to go along. Plan carefully before you begin. Dr. Tarling and Nkambi came up with this wonderful process in terms of how do we think about our teachers and the way that we teach. They said if we're teaching from a direct instruction point of view and not using much technology, and probably focusing on lower order thinking. The next teacher might be going into higher order thinking, but still not using much technology. The fourth teacher might still be teacher-centric, but using technology and maybe still focusing on lower order thinking. Whereas where you want your teachers to be is looking at a collaborative, interactive use of technology. You want them to be getting your children up into higher order thinking, and you want your lessons to be learner-centric. That's the kind of space we need our children to be in for the world of the future. Where are your teachers at? And how are you going to help them explore and change? So, professional development is vital for the success of e-learning at your schools. I do customized e-learning workshops and presentations, and will customize anything to suit your school. Please reach out to me. I have more than 17 SACE endorsed courses already. So we want our learners to be critical thinkers, collaborators. We want them to communicate and be creative. Whether it's exposing them to AI, 3D printing, robotics. Maybe it's introducing augmented reality or virtual reality into our classrooms. What about showing them how to code and use code effectively? Or getting them to really know the productivity suite. Whatever we're doing, we want to incorporate relevant technology to suit every lesson. We want to create real, personalized, and individualized learning. We want to provide as much feedback as possible to our learners that they know where they're at. We want them to understand learning in a connected world. So really use e-learning to empower your learners, to build their knowledge and prepare your learners for the future. I really thank you for this time to chat to you. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.